I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London. Jules, international break.
Yes.
We have the Women's Champions League. We figured we would shift the focus because unfortunately nobody got sacked in the last 3 days out of the big clubs that we normally talk about.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of serious football coming on. Some surprising results. I'm going to start with something painful, and which is, of course, Paris Saint-Germain losing at Old Trafford, the Theatre of Dreams. Now, I was traveling yesterday. I can't be across all this. So I said, let's get some help from somebody who knows a heck of a lot more about the women's game than I do. Joining us now, Emily Keogh. Emily, you were there. I was surprised. Should I have been?
I think we've kind of underestimated Man United. I think a lot of people have. I certainly have. And I think when I looked at the lineup, I thought, I'm not too sure about this because Valentine's Joyce, the goalkeeper, has been incredible, but obviously wasn't available last night. So I looked at that and I thought, I don't know how this is going to go. But I think what we have seen as well is that PSG have been really underwhelming. So you combine those two things and you would have thought potentially it will be a bit of an even game. But United were really, really great. And I think it is disappointing for a PSG side that they haven't picked up any points and that they've been really disappointing. But I certainly am eating my words about where I thought United would finish. I think they've been exceptional so far. And I'm quite impressed, really.
Jules, why do Paris Saint-Germain struggles? Is it still because the men's team went to the Club World Cup? Because that seems to be the excuse for everything.
No, it's a young team. Although I thought they played quite well yesterday. Olga Carbona, who hasn't been great since joining from Real Madrid, scored an amazing goal. They hit the post at 0-0. I think for once, they pressed well, and there's still a lack of talent in some positions for this young PSG team. But this is the way. It's the start of a new cycle with Paulo Cesar on the bench. I'm not the keenest, but hey, he's there. He's really willing. He used to play for PSG before, so okay, I get it. But they're not at the level of Wolfsburg, Real Madrid, or even Manchester United yesterday. So as much as I would have loved them to have a few points now on the board and hoping to finish in that top 12, it looks very unlikely. And yesterday, even if there was some improvement, certainly compared to the Real Madrid game where I was at 3 weeks ago, it was still not good enough in the end.
The other big box office game here from this round, and we will get back to talking about Paris Saint-Germain and United later on, are Arsenal, who they let a two-goal lead slip even away to Bayern. This comes on the heels of their draw with Chelsea at the weekend. Obviously, they lost in the previous round. Some issues for Lakers?
Yeah, I think it's getting to that point where we are asking questions of the management and of the team. There's clearly something not working. We've seen from the start of this season on pitch, they're not playing well, they're not connected. And I think Slaggers is trying to force too many of her best players with individual quality onto the pitch in areas that aren't working, like dropping Alessia Russo into the 10 and forcing Mariana back into a defensive role. It's working at times, and then it's not working at times. And there's no real change, there's no rotation. I was quite surprised that they didn't change starting 11 for the Chelsea game. I thought they might at least switch one or two positions up, especially because some of the players were quite poor in that game. But they started really well against Bayern, and then it was like a completely different team in the second half. And I don't really know what, they just took their foot off the gas. And I don't know why, because they're a team that know this competition. They know the quality they need to have. And for some reason, they just decided that they thought, 2-0's fine, we've got this, we're going to second half and we'll be all right. And they should have learned from that game against Bayern last year, where they came back to defeat them 5-2, that you can't do that. And for some reason, they just were like, meh, whatever. And then got demolished really in the end. And we are starting to ask questions of what's going on internally, because you can't have a team that have won the Champions League 1 year and then they're coming out and they're just squandering 2-0 leads. It's embarrassing. And I do feel for the fans that travelled, who would at halftime thought, this is really great for us, and then would have had to leave that stadium at full time quite deflated. And yeah, I think they've got, we said that this block here was going to be very defining for their season. And at the minute, it's defining in all of the wrong reasons. So, it leaves them in a really bad situation.
Jules?
Yeah, I agree with everything Emily said. I was so disappointed by even the in-game management from René and the fact that those players, some of them, okay, you're missing Leah Williamson and that kind of leadership, maybe. And I think they would have been better with her through the start of the season. But still, you've got players who know better that when you have to control a game like that, you can't collapse in 20 minutes and concede 3 goals. Even away from home, even against the Clara Bull, I can have 3 assists. Okay, great. They're a good team, Bayern, but not like this.
Yeah, looked to me like signs of immaturity, maybe a little bit of fatigue towards the end as well. All right, let's stick with Arsenal here because, Jules, I want to start with you. There is a natural thing, right? After you won, when there's a wobble the next year, kind of the cliche here is people talk about, well, motivation, second time round. That's why repeating is so difficult. We've heard these in every sport forever. And I always kind of feel a slightly convenient excuse. But from what we heard there from Emily as well, there's footballing reasons here too for Arsenal, including maybe Alessia Russo, as some people call her, or Alessia Russo, as I call her, playing in a much deeper position.
Sometimes, not always. No, she start. Yeah, sometimes she does. Which, I guess the idea.
Do they play front two the rest of the time with Buxtenius, or does she play wide?
No, front two. But that's only like during games and stuff. They rarely start. They've rarely started like that. She's still the number 9 on a run up front, and I think she's doing really well. And to be fair, I don't know where Arsenal would be, Emily, without Alessia Russo in the form that she's been in, really, or some of the goals that she scored. The rest is not clicking. Some of the new signings, I don't think yet have brought what they were signed for, and some were expensive. I think there's probably a bit of decompression after last season, the Champions League. A lot of them went to the Euros with obviously different results in the end for the Arsenal squad's members. But it's been a long season, and then you go again and you don't start the WSL well, and then obviously that catches up. You've got a very tough first game in the Champions League against Lyon at home, where you start well and then again you make mistakes, really poor mistakes at this level that cost you the win. And after that, you've got the doubt in your mind, I think. And that's why I don't know how you turn it over. Well, no, I know how you turn it over. If you start winning 2-3 in a row, it would be better. It's still a very good squad, one of the best squads in Europe when you look at the depth. But yet, as we've been saying earlier, it's just not clicking right now.
You on board with this assessment, Emily?
Yeah, 100%. I think Jules is right that there's an over-reliance on Alessia Russo. And I guess in my point about her playing deeper is that she's playing deeper the past 2 games for 60 minutes. And then she plays some striker for 30 minutes. Because they can't bring anyone else on because Stina Blacksenia started those games and she was always their sub-striker. So you're looking at it as a team setup and you're going, well, no wonder you're not getting the most out of Alessia Russo if she's playing 90 minutes and she's running for those 90 minutes all the time. And so I think there's an over-reliance on her. And I think that's potentially why we're not seeing as much from her as we probably could have, like she had last season. That being said, she's still scored in pretty much every game. I think it's 4 games she's scored in the past 5. So it's still impressive stuff. But you think about if they were rotating a bit more and Slaggers had potentially figured out what her best starting 11 is and who are her best subs at what timing, then potentially we'd see more from her. I think completely they missed Williamson. I think their defence is in quite a bad shape. They've tried a lot of different things. Obviously, they've been hit by injuries, but you'd still think that 3 of those 4 of that back 4, it stayed the same. And it's still not really working. And the midfield is a huge problem. So, and kind of what Joe said, I don't know how they're going to fix this in a quick enough space of time because the games are coming thick and fast and they haven't got time to kind of trial things and figure it out. They've just got to try and do it in the game. And if they play like they played in that 45 minutes, the first 45 minutes against Bayern, they could actually turn some really good results out. But it's that resilience and that grit that just seems to be a miss for them. And that's what's going to cause them to lose these games.
Bayern obviously cruising along nicely. Pernilla Harder getting it done. I want to say time for some of the other teams, but I got to talk about United because it wasn't that long ago that United were in the 2nd division and Lauren James, I think was the top scorer in the 2nd division or whatever. She's gone on to bigger and better things. Although United want to reach that level, they're right up there. They've won 3 of 3, Jules. Are they pretty much on track, or are they ahead of the curve or where you want them to be? Or given that Paris Saint-Germain still on 0 point, maybe I shouldn't read too much into that win.
No, it's a really great start. 3 wins in 3. Only 2 other teams have achieved that so far, and Chelsea is not one of them. So, Lyon and Barcelona and then Manchester United is really impressive to top your Champions League table. And I agree with Emily. What Emily said before, I didn't expect them to be at this level. It's a club that, as we know, and we don't need to go again on Sir Jim Ratcliffe probably dislike for women's football in general, or some lack of interest. Let's put it that way. So I don't think it's an easy environment to work in right now at Manchester United. But they're doing well. They signed good players. We talked about Rolfo Affair earlier. She's got a great header against PSG to win the game for them. She's been great since she arrived. Melvin Mala, who's Paris born and bred, by the way, scored a great goal yesterday. She has a big impact, and she leads the line really, really well, to go back to number 9 discussion that we had earlier with Arsenal, Alicia Russo, Blackstenius, etc. So it's good. It's good what they're doing. Can they win the WSL? I don't think so. They're still, for me, below certainly Chelsea, City, and even Arsenal probably. But in the Champions League, once it goes down to knockout games, I think you won't want to play against them.
All right. So a word from you, Emily, on Paris Saint-Germain, because yes, obviously there've been departures and whatever, but there's still some pretty big recognizable names, even to a casual observer like myself in that team. They're on 0 points. The way it works is a bit like the men's Champions League, just there's half as many teams, but the top 4 qualify automatically, and then between 5 and 12 they get into the playoffs. 1 win and they're in the top 12, so they can still turn it around. It's not time to panic yet.
Yeah, they can turn it around, and I think we've seen teams come back from these sorts of kind of what we call dire situations. I don't think it's as bad as the optics are kind of suggesting. As you said, 1 game and they can sneak back in there. I think it's going to be really telling next week, because a lot of those kind of middle block, low block teams, Valerenga, PSC, Benfica, St. Polten, they will play each other next week. So assuming we get a few wins here, we're seeing a few of those teams are going to go up into 6 points, which is going to leave the likes of Arsenal and PSG down the bottom. And I think it's going to be after that game that we kind of assess, okay, who is really in trouble here? Because I think if Arsenal, they're going to have to beat Real Madrid, really, I think we're at that point. And I think PSG have to win as well. And if they don't, I think that's when we're going to start looking at, oh, they are really in trouble. Because getting a win next week, you're kind of saving a little bit of that gap, knowing that those teams down the bottom are going to play each other, and hopefully we're going to get some good games, a winner and a loser. So it is going to give them a little bit of breathing room. But that, I think, is going to be the point that we look at those last 2 games and go, these are must win really by a certain amount of goals to see them through, because at the minute I think it is quite a difficult situation, and I think they've both, PSG and Arsenal, have pretty much ruled themselves out of automatic qualification. So they both know that realistically now, if they can pick up as many points as possible, it's about where they finish the seeding, and that's got to be the focus now. They've got to try and forego qualifying automatically, because that's just not really going to happen for them. It's going to be finish as high as they can to get as high up in those playoffs, because they are going to be looking at playoffs at the end of the day.
We just about the playoffs, Jules. I wonder if there's slightly different dynamic, because it's the first season for the women with this formula, but there's a different dynamic to playing in the playoff round as well for the women, simply because unlike the men, they generally, most leagues, they play fewer games, certainly in WSL and some of the other leagues. And so all of a sudden, adding 2 games into the schedule, on the one hand, you can say, well, they can handle it better because they play fewer league games. On the other hand, maybe they're unused to having these 2 games, dropped right into their schedule. Which way do you blow?
No, I don't think it's a big problem at all in terms of congestion and playing too many minutes and too many games. I think it's a lifeline for clubs like PSG and Arsenal. If they can't finish top 4, which was obviously the idea, even if you grab 12th place, you'll be happy and you go into that playoff. And then I think, again, those teams...
less of an issue in the women's game.
Yeah.
Than in the men's game.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, look at some of these other ones. Barcelona. Emily, I thought the narrative for me was, oh, look, it's going to be the last dance. Obviously the club, as in the broader club, and it's still in a rough financial position. So there's cutbacks. There's all these stars who, certainly in the summer, their contracts weren't extended beyond the end of the season. Man, if it's the last dance, they're flying. They've conceded 1 goal. I watched their highlights against Leuven, and I thought, easy peasy. And I think they're obviously highly motivated because they win the Champions League last year. When you look at them, given Arsenal struggles, do you still see kind of the cream of the crop, the
I
team to
think
beat?
so. Yeah, I think Barcelona have done enough to earn that title. I think they have been the team to beat for about 3, 4 years now. And that doesn't just go overnight because they lost in the final to Arsenal. Because realistically, Arsenal tactically got that game 100% right. Slegers knew what she needed to do, and they did it. But on any other day, that could have been Barcelona's game. And I think that's the reality that we look at it, is that we still see that Arsenal was an underdog. I've seen people call it a fluke, all of this stuff. No disrespect to Arsenal at all, but Barcelona are starting to be. And I think they were energized and angered at the start of the season when the narrative around the team was that they'd lost all the players. This is the season to beat them, that they're going to be really bad this year. They've lost loads of players. I think they were really like, I'm going to prove you wrong, because they came out of the gates against Bayern and put 7 past them.
Yeah.
I think this whole thing is just the storyline has energized them a little bit. And they haven't lost a whole lot of their quality. If you look at the players they've retained their core team. They're absolute star-studded. It's more of the sub, the bench players. So the issues are going to come kind of when you talk about scheduling. The issues for them are going to come at the back end of the season when they're suffering injuries and they haven't got the squad depth that we've known from them before. That's going to be their issue. But at the minute, they are still the team to be. And I think anyone would have been silly to not have Barcelona finishing in that top 4, regardless of everything going on with the club. They are still an incredible team with incredible talent. And I still think they're going to go all the way this year.
Yeah, I agree. But the injury to Eva Payo is, I think, a massive blow as well. In that, small squad now that they have, and that could potentially, I think, at some point maybe be a problem. But the one that is a Barcelona, Lyon, or Chelsea to win it, I don't think anybody else can touch them right now.
Well, you mentioned Leon there. Obviously, they've changed their name to, I think, something stupid, but
Why?
for marketing reasons. Well, the club is Olympique Lyonnais, right?
It's different owner to the men's team, so it's 2 different clubs.
But why change the name of the club?
Because the new owner, who doesn't own the men's side, wanted to differentiate herself and her team, her club.
And Lyonnais means females of Lyon. Is that what
Yeah,
is it
Lyon,
actually?
yeah. So it's yeah.
I don't know. You're still buying the club's history. I don't like it when people change club names.
Fair enough.
But they're also perfect, Jules.
Yeah.
They're one of the 3 teams that are perfect. Obviously, with United and Barcelona, we just talked about. It's all clicking.
Yeah. I mean, we could compare squads really, Emily, and it could be fun to do a combined 11 of Lyon players and, I don't know, Barcelona players or Chelsea players. But for me, they probably, in terms of depth, have the best squads in Europe. It's quite incredible what they've built. Michel Kang and a team there. They've got a great coach who's won before, obviously. They've got experience, youth, pace, strength. I mean, anything. You look everywhere. For me, they look so good. And yet, Arsenal rattled them at times. But from Dumone to, I don't know, Diani to even Hegerberg, who scored 2 goals on Tuesday night, it's just so stuck that whoever beat them, and there might be somebody beating them there, they will have to be very, very good for them.
We can still give John Texter tiny bit of credit, right? Without him, Michel Kang, he introduced Michel Kang.
Yeah,
no.
no.
All right. I'm sure he'll take it.
No John Texter here.
Chelsea, I got to turn to you on Chelsea. Obviously, they're one of 2 teams on 7 points. Much expected of them. I think most would have them among the favorites as well, right, Emily?
Yeah, 100%. I think they really needed that result against Bolton. They've kind of struggled. It's just sort of a strange thing to say around Chelsea because they've been winning. They're still unbeaten in the league. It's 32 games now, which is just stupidly good. But I think when you look at it, they really needed a solid performance because some of their performances haven't been great. They weren't great against Arsenal in the second half. After Arsenal got that second goal, Chelsea didn't have a shot off after the 64th minute on the weekend. So when you look at it like that, they haven't been playing at this sort of ruthless sort of Chelsea way that we've come to know. And I think they needed a little bit of time to kind of get back into groove. Obviously, they've got injuries, rotations happening. And I think we talked a little bit about how it's important that teams are changing things up. But for me, a little bit, I think almost Chelsea's gone too far the other way. They're rotating so much that they're affecting their relationships and their build-up play because they're used to playing with one player, then the next game that player's not there, then the next game that player's back in, and then the next one they're not in. And it's throwing people off. You can see that in the way they're playing. And I think they need to build a bit more consistency with kind of a core, maybe 7 or 8, maybe 9 players, and rotating 1 or 2. Because at the minute they're rotating 4 or 5 per game. And I think that is throwing them off a little bit. So it was really positive to see, again, a changed team have a really good performance. But I think I would like to see a bit more consistency from Chelsea going forward, because they are an incredible team. I think alongside Leon, they have incredible depth. They've got an incredible squad. And I think they can go far. But I think they just need to get a bit of consistency and tighten up a little bit, especially in defence. And I think they'll be solid. And I think, like every team that have their Achilles heels, Chelsea's are a little bit more exposed at the minute. And I think that's a worry for fans. However, we know what this team is capable of. I think alongside Barcelona and Lyon, they are really cementing themselves as a title contender.
All right, I'll give you guys a free hit to wrap this up. Outside of the teams that we haven't mentioned, I'm assuming, like we said, Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain, probably Bayern as well. They're not in the top 4 right now, but if we had to pick an outsider to win it, assuming that you want to consider them outsiders, we could still see them making a deep run. Anybody else you feel, whether you like them, whether they've done something special, whether you think they can spring a surprise, anybody else you want to highlight that you think we should give a mention? You can go first, Emily, while Jules has to think. Just don't pick whatever Jules is about to pick.
Okay, I'll try and mind read. I'd like to, I mean, I don't think they're going to win, but I have been so impressed with Leuven. I think for your first
That's your
dance
romantic side.
Champions
That's
League
you being
battle,
romantic.
they've just been incredible. And I think we saw it when they got the draws against the top teams. They're excited. And against Barcelona, yes, we didn't really expect them to win. But look at the fact that they put 7 past Bayern and only 3 past Leuven. You take that, really. I think they're great. And I love the story around it of being a debutant, first crack at this competition. And they're pretty much, bar anything going horribly wrong, they'll be in playoffs, which is such a great thing for them. And I love the stories like this.
I mean, in a game that's so polarized, so dominated by money, much more than the men's game, obviously, the imbalance in resources, it is kind of cool to see something like that.
Yeah.
And Leuven, plus a fine college town. Jules?
Yeah, I love my Paris FC, and
I
Paris,
knew you were going to go there.
Paris, obviously, the only
threw it away
city
against Real
in
Madrid.
the Women's Champions League with 2 teams. But I like Real Madrid as well. I like Caroline Villa. I like Linda Caicedo. I just like some of their players. I don't think they will win it again. They're a bit behind everybody else. But I think it's a good project to be part of. And I was impressed in the way they played and the composure they showed against PSG away 3 weeks ago in game week 2. But again, it was against the poor PSG side. But yeah, I don't think I would. And also, I have to say, I was on the same hotel as the Real Madrid players in Paris before that game. And I took the lift to go to the stadium with some of the players who were dressed all in Louis Vuitton, because that's the club partner for men and women. And they look so classy, so nice, so elegant. I was like, wow, this is special.
Just to be clear, I know how proud you are of your Parisian roots, your Parisian identity. When it comes to cities in the Women's Champions League, Emily, I'm going to out you here. There are 2 other cities that have 2 teams in there.
Yeah, but
and they're both doing better than Paris, right? London and Madrid?
Yeah.
All right. Just flagging it up. Can we say that maybe for this season, the capital of women's football might not be Paris?
It's just not the same, I think. That's what I meant,
There you go.